Hey, what's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 2018 career mode, episode number 30 today for the Austrian Grand Prix. If you guys did miss the French GP episode uploaded yesterday, be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. McLaren ended up having a very good time there at that episode, so definitely one to watch out for, especially if you're a Fernando Alonso fan. But going into this one then, we have some big news. So, new patch has been unveiled for F1 2018, so that is not only changing a lot of fixes, hopefully, and optimizing the game, but also at the same time they also adjusted some of the cars. Also, the cars actually got updated with new liveries and updated sponsors, and also some of the cars, when they have new aerodynamic parts, they've been modeled onto the car. So my Haas car will actually end up looking a little bit different when we get onto the actual onboard gameplay later in the episode. But the big change really for me for the career mode is some of the buffs and nerfs for some of the cars. You don't know what that means. A buff is obviously an improvement, and a nerf is a downgrade on the car. So a few different teams got buffed and a few teams got nerfed in this update, and so I'm going to try and show you a comparison, because I actually thankfully recorded the intro for this episode already before the patch came in, and then the patch downloaded, and then I re-recorded the intro so you can see the difference in the comparison chart. So what you're looking at right now is the current chart pre-patch. So this was straight after the French Grand Prix. This is what it looked like, and you can see now as we slowly transition in, you can see the big differences, the main one being McLaren. You can see how much McLaren got nerfed. If we go through from the top down to the bottom, it looks like Haas, Red Bull, Ferrari have stayed put. The same with Mercedes. McLaren come down. Force India have been given a little bit of a boost. So from going from pretty close to Renault in that chart now in my career mode, they're now significantly ahead of Renault in that midfield battle. McLaren are now joining that midfield battle. And you can see down below, Sauber have also been given a little bit of a buff. And now they're ahead comfortably of Williams. And Toro Rosso and Williams really stayed put there. But the big one, obviously for us, for our sake, for the championship fight in this career mode season 2, is McLaren. You know, they were so far ahead of Mercedes, and actually pre-patch, if you look on the left-hand side, the comparison, left-hand side's pre-patch and right-hand side's post-patch, McLaren were almost catching Ferrari, or set to catch Ferrari here at Austria going into this one, but then the patch downloaded, and now for the Austrian Grand Prix, McLaren face an uphill battle of maybe battling the Mercedes once again, and trying to get kind of ahead of them, if that's even a word, re-upgrade and try and, bolster their car even more to actually fully get back up to where they used to be. So, kind of a bit of an odd situation. I'm a little bit irked by it, to be honest, because obviously last episode, spoiler alert now, McLaren obviously won their very first Grand Prix in the career mode ever with Fernando Alonso. It was looking so great to be maybe a true 5-team scrap for the top 10 every single race then, and now McLaren have been nerfed down to the point where they're going to be maybe struggling to even keep out of the Force Indias, depending on the circuit type, obviously, because Force India still has a very good engine underneath it. Obviously, McLaren, I think McLaren have retained that they've got maybe the best or maybe the second best engine on the grid still. I think with the nerf, they got nerfed a little bit on the engine front as well. But the main point that they got downgraded was the chassis. They went from I think third or fourth best chassis now in this career mode down to one of the worst ones on the grid. So they got really, obviously like in real life, to kind of mimic the real life. But the thing is, obviously, I don't know about you guys, I was getting invested in McLaren being there in the top, but now that we're going to have to wait maybe till the end of the season to see them back up there in the fight, which is a little bit unfortunate. But obviously for our sake, if we focus on Haas as a team, we haven't been affected too much. Red Bull have gone ahead of us now. We were ahead of them at France, but now into Austria, Red Bull are now back ahead of us going into Austria. Ferrari have stayed put though, so for our sake, I don't think much will change, to be honest, apart from maybe Red Bull will turn up a little bit, but they were already doing that anyway at France, so I think for our sake, nothing's going to change too much. But for the rest of the fights in the grids, you might see Sauber doing a little bit better, and McLaren definitely going to be doing significantly worse than they did last episode. So just wanted to point that out and kind of show you off, it's not very often that you actually get to see the side-by-side comparison of the R&D charts, pre and post-patch like that, so I thought I want to show you guys that kind of off quite clearly at the beginning of this video. But anyway, let's get into the qualifying then, and see how we do in this brand new post-patch era of F1 2018 career mode.
Thank you for joining us once again for today's qualifying session. Sit back, relax, and enjoy what we hope will be a fantastic contest for pole position. Many of the drivers have commented on the challenge posed by the high-speed direction changes around this circuit, but you still need to be quick in a straight line. Is that a fair layman's appraisal?
It's easy to make your car quick in a straight line, you just take all the downforce off. but when it comes to a track like this, you really need a bit more of a compromise. The main focus here is carrying speed through the fast-flowing corners, but you still don't want to be a sitting duck on the straight.
So here we are riding on board in Q1 in our brand new Haas car now post-patch. You can see the clear difference in the aerodynamics on the halo there, going from the little vortex generator shark teeth on the top of the halo. We've now got the 3-wing array, and also we've got the HaasCNC.com kind of website sponsors on the inside of the halo, and then you've got the double Haas logo on the left and the right on either side of that actual pylon there, where the kind of halo meets the top of the chassis. So that's the big difference then for us, but you'll see probably as you maybe go on through the replay cameras, and you know, in future episodes you may be able to see when we go on board with other cars, you'll see the differences. You know, the big ones being you know, teams like McLaren now have the brand new nose that they debuted back at the Spanish Grand Prix. Of course, when the game launches, the game kind of models the cars at Australia, and then eventually they can bring in these patches to keep them up to date, as well as kind of updating sponsors here and there as well. So you might see some other cars having newer sponsors that weren't there before when the game launched. So yeah, so we've got a brand new kind of looking car then, in that kind of sense. I kind of got really used to the kind of plainer looking halo on the Haas, but I'm sure it won't take too long for us to get used to this new kind of more aerodynamic looking halo. And definitely, I don't know, it feels like an upgrade almost, kind of like it's a visual upgrade, but it kind of feels like now our cars actually had an actual aero update in a way, in a funny kind of way like that. So we're now moving into Q2. We've got a bit of traffic there with Valtteri Bottas' Mercedes on the inside. We lock up on the front right, and that's not really great for us, of course, so we need to start on this set of tyres, and so I got a bit peeved off with Valtteri, so I'm going to kind of intentionally back off on the rest of this lap really as we go towards the last sector, and I know I'm going to have to use another set of ultra soft tyres. So that was a little bit annoying. I was going to get, you know, lose at least 1/10 there with Bottas, you know, going a little bit wider, going around the outside, but then I lost even more time locking up, and then at the end of the sector just gave up with it. But obviously Q1 was a formality, but now I'm going to have to burn up another set of ultra soft tyres, so we go wide even. I'm just going to lift off towards the line really, just give us a kind of yardstick then to kind of see on the top right how much we're improving by. And so as we go on to the second line lap, then a brand spanking new set of ultra soft tyres. Obviously we have to start in this set, so I have burned up 3 sets already because we use ultras to get into Q2 anyway, so that's going to mean I only have 1 run then in Q3 of new ultra soft tyres. Of course I could technically use old ones, but they're not going to exactly have the out and out pace and grip of brand spanking new ones. But you can see the time we've gained there clearly through those just literally 2-3 corners as we went around the outside of Bottas on the previous lap. Then a little bit wide on the exit of the last corner, but across the line, and we do make it into Q3, and we actually go fastest of all ahead of Magnussen. You can see, really good to see 1-2 for Haas right now in Q2, and you can see Valtteri Bottas ended up having a bit of karma because he, you know, bottled my first run, and he actually gets knocked out in Q2. You can see the 2 Force Indias make it into the top 10 shootout, and both Renaults are knocked out there, with Fernando Alonso still able to drag the McLaren into the top 10, but Van Dorn unable to do so. Leclerc, you can see, very far up the order, just behind Bottas on the starting grid. That'll be in P12. So you can see the clear difference and impact of the patch. You know, the 2 Force Indias comfortably into the top 10. Both Renaults not, one of the McLarens in, and the Sauber of Leclerc so far up the order. So yeah, in a way, you know, it depends on who you're rooting for. Bit of a shame for the McLaren team and the Renault team like that, and obviously good for Force India to have such a big kind of bump up in the order straight away, you know, from one race to the next, just with a patch there. But obviously it doesn't really bother us because we're fighting Ferrari and Red Bull at the moment, and at the moment it's looking really good because we were 1-2 there in Q2. You can see now we're on our one and only run. You saw I was fast forwarding through the session. I let everyone have one go by themselves, and now we're here at the end of the session. Overcast conditions though, very interesting enough, so I don't know if that's going to affect the track temperatures at all on the track, but at the moment Magnussen is on provisional pole position. So this lap right here, my one and only flyer here in Q3 is trying and top my teammate and try and steal away pole position. He's already had 1 pole on me before this season at the Spanish Grand Prix, so let's see if I can try and steal pole position away from my teammate here in this session. It's all very close there at the top end. I think the Red Bulls and Ferraris are very, very close to one another and not too far off ourselves, but our car definitely is looking very, very strong and in a bit of a class of its own almost, with maybe 1/10 over the Red Bull car and the Ferrari. So I think if anyone's going to spoil the party for Magnussen, it's going to be me. We lost a bit of time maybe on the exit of turn 1, and also here through that next right-hander into sector 2, maybe not as tight as I wanted it to, but so far pretty tidy lap here, trying to chuck the car a little bit tighter than I did in Q2, especially on this next left-hander, trying to go a little bit earlier on the left-hander. Don't want to kind of scrub off wide too much there and get on the curbing on the right, and definitely lost some time in Q2 as we get through now to the last two corners. Obviously a very short lap here in Austria, chuck it in sixth gear, but oh, we go way too hot into that, lose time by going wide, and again wide again in the last corner, and then it's going to be across the line, and it's only going to be P6. And even though we're only 2 and a bit tenths off my teammate, it's all the way down to P6. That's how close it is. Look at that, from pole position down to P6. That is really, really close. So it's going to be a really fun race maybe. But again, for the second time now this season, my teammate gets pole position and I'm floundering there in P6. I thought, I reckon, I could have got pole there if it wasn't for those 2 mistakes in the last 2 corners. I just, went too hot in the second last corner, got on the curbing a little bit, had to lift off to not go completely off circuit, and then the last corner again a little bit too wide over the curbing, lost some time, and I'm only 2 and a bit tenths off Magnussen's time. I reckon I lost those 2 and a bit tenths off his time in just those last 2 corners, but not all is lost. Obviously, like I said, it's all very close in the top 10, so let's just see what we can do in the race. And for sure my engineer Jeff is thinking about a very aggressive start. He's saying, I know I've told you to be cautious in the turn 1, lap 1 on many occasions before, but let's go for it and be a bit heroic this time round. So I agree with him. Let's try and be a bit aggressive at the start, try and make up the places, and then try and take the fight to my teammate Magnussen, who starts on pole position then for the Austrian Grand Prix. Let's go to the full grids and get going.
Good afternoon and welcome to Spielberg, and to a circuit that in one form or another has held every Austrian Grand Prix in the championship, except the very first back in 1964. It was at this race that John Watson lost a bet and his beard when he took Team Penske's only F1 victory in 1976. If anything, the stakes are even higher today, with 25 points available for victory and a crucial advantage in the championship fight. It's one of the shortest laps on the calendar today then, with 7 rights and just 3 lefts, making up the 10 corners of this high-speed circuit. Turn 2 is barely a corner at all. They'll be flat out through there, a left-hand kink into the uphill braking zone of Turn 3. Turns 1, 3 and 4 are all potential opportunities to overtake. With me today, of course, is Anthony Davidson. Now, I want to ask you about Pierre Gasly. Looks like they've got a tough race in store today, as grid penalties from changing power unit components has forced them further down the field.
But on the bright side, at least those fresh components can help them maintain the power they need to come through the pack. I expect to see them take a more aggressive approach today to make up for the compromised start.
We're almost ready to go then, and this is what the starting grid looks like for today's race. Kevin Magnussen lines up on pole position, with Daniel Ricciardo slotting in alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Vettel, Verstappen, Kimi Raikkonen, the engineer, Perez, Hamilton, Alonso, and Esteban Ocon, Bottas, Hülkenberg, Stoffel Van Dorn, and Sainz, Ericsson, Sirotkin, Lance Stroll, and Charles Leclerc. Gasly, they've taken a grid penalty, and Brendan Hartley rounds off the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
So he talked about heroics and being more aggressive on lap 1 here to try and make up these positions from P6, but at the same time, we're going to be a bit more aggressive on the strategy as well. I'm thinking rather than the bog standard 1-stop ultra soft tyres to the soft tyres, we're going to go for the 2-stop today onto 2 sets of super soft at the end of the Grand Prix. After a shorter first stint, we're going to fill up the car quite heavy on fuel, which means we can use rich mix for most of the race. And you saw quite clearly from Magnussen's pole and also the 1-2 in Q2 as well, that the car has the raw pace to, again, like Canada maybe, pull off the 2-stop, even with some traffic, with some 1-stoppers. So that's the hope. We can get through that and we can be as aggressive as we mean to set off here on lap 1. And let's try and really take the fight to our teammate if we can, hopefully, today, as we go to 5 red lights at a very gloomy Austrian Grand Prix. And the lights are on for an age. They're finally out and we're underway. It's a bit of a shaky start there, a bit cautious, but into turn 1, take it nice and easy, but then aggressive on the exit, nice and punchy onto the apex, and there we go to the undercut line of Kimi Raikkonen, and then trying to overtake Verstappen straight away as Ricciardo goes side by side with Sebastian Vettel. Magnussen still P1 and unchallenged at the moment as we go to the end of sector 1, then up the hill into the hairpin round the outside of Verstappen, who might try and challenge us on the exit. Let's see, traction wise, we get up into high on ERS, and we're going to be just ahead of Verstappen. Going to look behind to make sure. And yes, we'll pull along ahead and we'll go defensive to the inside line and try and fend that off as he'll come back around the outside. Meanwhile, Vettel tries the same thing on Ricciardo and again is met with some unsuccessful opportunity there for Vettel. So he's down to P3, Ricciardo P2 at the moment, but we close up a little bit on the next left-hander and now it's just about trying to get the head down and try and chase after and keep up with Vettel as we now move on to the end of lap 2 on towards lap 3. So lap 2 nothing really happened. Lap 3 now hopefully something can happen as Ricciardo goes a little bit defensive there and compromises the racing line, so Vettel might have a good run on the Australian now. Let's try and catch maybe both of them out if we can with DRS of course up this hill now. I think that's something that's been added in the patch. I can't remember, I don't think it was there in season 1, but of course in real life they added that extra DRS zone here around Austria. And so here we go, Vettel round the outside then, but Ricciardo seeming unfazed. He's got DRS back on Vettel and even squeezes us towards the grass and he's kind of unaware of where we are. He's going to go to the left, we're going to go to the right to make it 3 wide maybe momentarily to that corner as we're down the inside of the German and Ricciardo squeezed out and Vettel remains actually up there in P2 then. So Vettel with a really good piece of defensive driving there in the middle of both us cars, of myself and Ricciardo. We're now trying to jostle for position round the outside there and try and find the grip if we can. We're going to be a little bit wide and scrub wide due to Vettel on the inside there, so a little bit off circuit momentarily, but Vettel's going to get the swing back line and he's got the much better exit, so we're going to brake early. He's going to go on the inside, that's fine. He goes wide like we did on our Q3 lap. We send it down the inside for a great switchback move on the racing line, and there we have it. We're up into P2 and now we're going to try and bolt away and try and catch Kevin Magnussen. We move all the way now to lap number 9, so a fair few laps then of just getting our head down, trying to close this gap. You can see we are closing that gap, but at the same time you saw that little twitch of oversteer on the exit of turn 1. The tyre wear is starting to kick in already, and so that's a kind of double kind of thumbs up then for me in my mind that we should do the 2-stop here, because it looks like actually I'm struggling maybe on my tyres more than Magnussen is at the moment, because I started to catch him, but in this last 2 laps, lap 8 and now lap 9, the kind of gap remained the same. So I think maybe my setup and driving style around Austria definitely is maybe pushing the tyres more into the surface than Magnussen's car. So he's going to continue on, all of them continue on for apparent 1-stop it looks like. I don't know, we'll have to see if any of the top guys also come in on the next lap, on lap 10 maybe. I don't know, maybe the Red Bulls or even behind them the Mercedes cars. We haven't really seen the Mercedes have not really featured in this race at all, actually, is, you know, obviously showing off the fact they really haven't done any upgrades this season, and it's been a very backward season for them, the reigning world champions of Hamilton and Mercedes in the constructors. But we're out then in P17 now on lap 10, so plenty of places to make up, and so this is the traffic. This is the most crucial part of the Grand Prix and the strategy for us. We need to get through these cars as quickly as possible and not dawdle with these moves here. You can see very aggressively to the inside apex of turn 1 after we overtook Sorokin, you know, making sure I'm not giving him an inch of, you know, space to maybe dive down the inside to turn 1. We catch up to Leclerc then behind the other Williams car. Lance Stroll around the outside will pounce on Leclerc. Soft tyre v super soft, and obviously our super soft's not worn too much. His soft's going off a little bit. Obviously he's trying the contra strategy of going soft then to probably super soft tyres later into this Grand Prix, I imagine, in the Sauber. But there we go, down the inside of this second Williams then, and we're up into P13. Next up, Marcus Ericsson, but at the moment now we've got a bit of clean air to Ericsson, so let's get the power down on towards lap 12 and try and really catch him quite rapidly, and also try and set a decent lap time here as we do it, as we now catch up to the Swede. We've got a whole gaggle of cars ahead of us on the minimap there. I'm hoping, to be honest, they come in before we catch them, otherwise we might have a bit of an issue. Let's see where Magnussen filters out though, because I think that's him in the pit lane then. K-Mag as we cross the line for a purple lap time on the left-hand side, around the outside then of Marcus Ericsson in the Sauber into turn 1. There is Magnussen, and he comes out side by side with us. We're just going to be ahead of him, and so we've jumped Magnussen in the pit stops there. So without the strategy already playing in, undercuts worked on Magnussen, but Magnussen comes back at us on the left-hand side. He's on soft tyres, remember. He's going to the end of the Grand Prix for sure then on the soft tyres, and I've tried to squeeze him out, but he's kept his nose in, and he's actually got a better exit than me. Even with high ERS mode there, he's going to come back and give us a real good fight on the left-hand side there. So this is two teammates toe-to-toe, wheel-to-wheel for the potential race leader. Remember, because the better Magnussen can hold me up, the better for him, because I've got to try and make another pit stop and catch him back up. So if he can try and do a good job of holding me up, that'll be him settled for the race win. But at the moment we are ahead, and we're now catching up to further cars. Carlos Sainz then into turn 1, hold us up, an absolute treat there. Really had to lift off and make sure we didn't slam to the back of his gearbox there. We'll have to try and overtake him, but Magnussen, I fear, is going to follow us through as well with DRS up this hill. And so at the moment, Magnussen doing all he can to try and interrupt my kind of phase of this this Grand Prix of trying to get away from him and try and actually use the fresher tyres I have against him to pull away, because I need to try and get some sort of gap before I make my second pit stop, because the bigger gap I can get to Magnussen right now in this race, the better for me after I have to obviously, lose some time with the pit stop. I'm not too sure how much time you lose exactly in the pit stop, but, if I can gain a couple of seconds on Magnussen on track, that'll be ideal before that stop. But we're going to close up now to some more cars. Then we've got, Van Dorn up ahead of Hulkenberg, it looks like, here in the other Renault, and Magnussen is still right there in Sector 2 with us. So let's try and see if we can maybe get Hulkenberg down the inside, maybe, of the last corner. I can't quite do it in this second last corner, but into the last, can we try and get him in between myself and Magnussen? There we go, over the curbing, and we are up into what will be P3 now, catching up to Van Dorn. But behind us, I think Magnussen straight on the back of Hulkenberg, actually, and going down the inside. Yep, there he is, down the inside of Hulkenberg into turn 1. So K-Mag has also got the throttle to the foot to the floor to try and keep up with me here. And so now we'll try and overtake Van Dorn, and yet again, I think Magnussen will copy us and try and use this to his advantage as well. We go down the inside, push Van Dorn wide, obviously, as we make the overtake and go purple in the first sector, at least that's good. Up into P2, the only car left is Bottas, but obviously he was knocked out in Q2, so he's doing an alternative strategy on the super soft tyres. But for now, Van Dorn does stay ahead of Magnussen for a bit there. So ironically, the McLaren with a nerf to this race after the patch is actually staying ahead of Magnussen for now. So we're going to get the head down then eventually, set the purple lap time there, and use these tyres to good effect as Bottas now comes in. We're up into P1, Magnussen P2. It's a 1-2 for Haas. Obviously, I'm happy about that, but I want to try and see if we can really take the fight here, because I still do feel like I missed out on that pole position. Those two mistakes. This entire race is trying to make up for those two mistakes in Q3. And so by the time we get to lap 22 then, it's time for our second and last pit stop of the Grand Prix. You can see I'm trying to catch up to Gasly here. I locked up into that hairpin, and so I'm starting to feel the sense of tyre wear. But we pulled about 5 seconds on Magnussen then by the time we get to lap 22. So 5 seconds is going to be good, because obviously any time we lose here is going to be minus 5 seconds then for when we come out behind our teammate then. So we've done some great work in the first stint, and now it's time to come in. We've got maybe just about a little over 1 lap of fuel left. I think like 1.12 laps of fuel, so that'll give us a good like 3-4 laps of rich mix. Or if we try and spread it out a little bit in only sectors 1 and 2, maybe gives us about maybe 7 laps of rich mix in sector 1 and 2. And obviously we've got the battery store to kind of take care of. And so as we come out on lap 23 with 13 laps to go, it's time to firstly overtake Sebastian Vettel then, as he comes out right ahead of us, quite close to us. And then after that, it's time to just get the blinkers on and just keep on going and keep on pounding round to try and catch Magnussen. But first of all, we do have to dispatch a Vettel, and hopefully he doesn't hold us up too much. He is on the one-stop strategy here on soft tyres then, and it is going to be a pretty easy affair, to be fair, around the outside. You can see that is the tyre wear kicking in for Vettel, going long, and that is what I'm hoping Magnussen has. If Magnussen is struggling that much as Vettel is in the works Ferrari car, then we are looking in a very good position, because we've got no more traffic to deal with. It's just me and then Magnussen's next car up the road. You can see the big difference there between where Magnussen is on track right now and where Vettel was. So actually, it is down to me to stop this race being a boring, dominating one for Magnussen. I'm the only one who can upset Magnussen's domination in this race at the moment. So for the sake of the fans, let's try and do it. But actually, look at that, some drama here at Austria straight away. So literally half a lap after overtaking him, Vettel's engine suffers a blowout there. It's almost like his engine was like, give up, mate. You've been overtaken by a Haas Ferrari car. I can't take it, mate. I'm going to fail on you, Vettel. So Vettel's out the Grand Prix. Some more bad luck there for another top team. And so it really is just me and Magnussen up front then, because the gap is even bigger to Raikkonen than behind us. And so as we go on through the Grand Prix, set a purple lap time using that, the fresh tyres to good use, alter the rich mix, alter the ERS battery, and so we're just going to plough on, and we move on 5 laps later on lap 29 onto lap 30, 6 laps to go, and Magnussen is in our sights. Only a couple, like just over 1 second then ahead of us. Soon enough, he will be within our DRS range, and soon enough, we can actually attack him for the race win. So this 2-stop is actually looking like it's going to be a really good way to go about this entire Grand Prix as we move on now to the last 5 laps of the Grand Prix. Can we do this? Can we overtake our teammate fair and square on track with a more aggressive strategy and make up for the blunder we had in qualifying? We're going to have DRS up the hill then to the hairpin, the end of Sector 1, but then there's another DRS zone on that back straight then as we go into the heart of Sector 2, so we need to maybe play this a little bit tactically and maybe not try and actually overtake him here, but try and get alongside him here like this on the left-hand side. Cutting a little bit tighter on the apex, try and straight up the car a lot faster, get the power down a little bit earlier than Magnussen, and then try and catch him here. DRS open, ERS also on to high in overtake mode, trying to see if he can do this, but Magnussen equally is going to be deploying some ERS. You can see, actually, I've not really caught him there, actually, so I think Magnussen must have bumped it up into hot lap or overtake mode, try and defend from me, fair enough. Also, at the same time, I haven't bumped up into rich mix quite yet, because I'm still a bit worried about using all of it, but also at the same time, you know, patience, eventually, I feel like we will get him. We just need to wait for the right time to pop, you know, stuff like rich mix, and the right time to really use all the ERS to good effect. So we're still keeping a lot of battery store here. Can we try down the inside? Maybe have a very good run there. You know, the slipstream there was so powerful, but you can see on the curbing, I just lose the back end a little bit. Have to go opposite lock in that corner and stick behind Magnussen once again. So K-Mag, he's not feeling the pressure so far. I really am trying to do a bit of an under pressure episode, a bit of into the barrier here at the moment, trying to overtake Magnussen, but at the moment he's still not cracking, and so we're right up his gearbox now for the second time as we go up the hill towards the end of sector 1. Where will we go? To the inside again on the left hand side, on the outside of the hairpin. Then he's going to brake a little bit later than us, and we're going to try and go the long way round this time round. Magnussen squeezed us a little bit. I think a bit sidewall the tyre, definitely rubbed there on the right front tyre to his left rear, and once again it does rub a little bit into the next brake zone on the right hand turn. Magnussen with a big lock up on the left front, and he almost completely steers us straight on into the gravel trap there. Magnussen now starting to feel the pressure maybe at the moment on lap 32, 4 laps to go, and we're still literally, you could throw a blanket over us pretty much through most of these corners here. And at the moment, it's still nose-to-tail stuff. And so I get Gunther Steiner on the pit wall is definitely maybe a little bit nervous. And maybe the leg twitching is coming out. Maybe the biting of the nails is coming out at the moment there on the pit wall as we're getting very, very close to some sort of incident. I really hope that doesn't happen. I want the 1-2 to stay. I just want to overtake Magnussen. But to be fair, I am actually trying as hard as possible to overtake him. I literally just can't at the moment. He's doing a great job. We try around the outside now, turn 1. Maybe slow him down to the apex. That might be the chance to finally do it. But again, he gets good traction. I think again he's on a higher ERS mode to get the oomph out of that corner, and so up the hill again we'll go, this time to the inside now. Can we finally do it? Squeeze him out on the exit as we open up the steering wheel, but again look at that, he gets the elbows out and gets the better traction momentarily, but this time round now up into high, DRS trying to squeeze him on the left, but he's still there. He's kept his nose in and have to wait till the inside line. We lock up now, not as dramatically as Magnussen before, but that scrubbed us off a little bit wide, and that's pushed Magnussen off wide, and that is going to be the race-winning move there as we move on now to the last lap of the Grand Prix, and it's going to be the victory here against our teammate here. A thoroughly good battle there for, what was it, 2-3 laps there on lap 30 to lap 33, but we are going to win the Austrian Grand Prix, but even more so take home a really nice 1-2 once again for Haas F1 team.
Fantastic, you won the Grand Prix.
Great work from the Haas team. They take a famous win here today. Tell me, Ants, what was the key to this success?
I think a large part of the result comes down to temperament. They were able to keep their heads when everyone around them was losing theirs, and that's allowed them to get the best out of the car, to maximise the strategy, and to stay out of trouble.
There aren't many teams, you know, as they come out onto the podium now, who could do what Haas have managed to accomplish here. It's hard to believe just how competitive they've already become. An amazing victory.
A really satisfying win here at the Austrian Grand Prix to see the two-stop really work out as I wanted it to, and seeing, you know, if, you know, we committed to the aggression from lap 1 and it's actually worked out. And that entire race, the Haas car as on its own with Magnussen as well was in a world of its own. I mean, Magnussen in second place finished 20 seconds ahead of Raikkonen third on the road. So this car was literally on rails in that Grand Prix, and no one could touch either me or Magnussen. Like I said earlier in the Grand Prix, if it hadn't been for me attacking Magnussen for first place, that would have been a very dull, dominant Grand Prix win for Magnussen. If I was on the one stop, I just dread to think how dull that race would have actually been for us. So really happy I did the two stop there to actually catch him like that in emphatic fashion. Obviously Vettel retirement also means we get even more ground in the championship, and Magnussen as well gets ground on Vettel. In constructors, we look even more comfortable with Haas there. It has been such a consistent first half of this season, and now with 2 1-2s in the season, I think you can say we're fully, you know, cementing ourselves as a top team now in the career mode here. So let's go to the final questions then before we end out the episode.
The fans really seem to enjoy that. You made it look easy. It doesn't get much better than a win at this track, does it?
So it's going to have to be the obvious meme answer. You know, the best fans here. Do a bit of a Hamilton. They've got the best fans here. Every single circuit has the best fans. Got to answer the top one there and also increase the team rate.
What do you think made the difference between this weekend and last weekend?
So obviously, like I said, the car was on rails pretty much in that Grand Prix, especially on the super soft tyres. So going to, you know, bump up the morale of the aero department by complimenting them on the right-hand side there.
It's safe to say you're smashing everyone's expectations, isn't it?
Going to be a bit showy with this answer and say they should expect more. Then be a little bit tongue-in-cheek, a little bit cocky as well. Obviously, you've been going pretty well in the last 3 episodes, so yeah, they should expect more from us.
You really cut your way through the field today. What was your strategy?
And finally, I'm going to talk about the car being nimble and light as well, try and boost her up the chassis department as well. That'll be the morale boost they kind of want and need.
Great. Well, that's everything.
And so with that, that's going to be the end of the episode. A thoroughly enjoyable one for the entire Haas team. 1-2 pole position. Obviously, Magnussen will be a bit disheartened that he didn't get pole to the win. But obviously, you know, we pulled off what was a very good, in the end, aggressive strategy. So guys, if you did enjoy the episode, smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new here, to get subscribed for weekly Formula One content. I've been aarava. Have a good day, and we'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.